Alright, so welcome back everyone to the part of this video. So in the previous video we were able to create the global elements for our project, so which applies to all other elements, so the margin, padding, font family that wants to use, the list styling, the text decoration, box sizing, and the scroll behavior. So in this part we are going to continue to create the other styling for the other elements. So looking back at our site, it's still the same way we left it. So let's start creating some things now. So the first thing we need to create now is the global variable. So what variable are? Variable are just they are used to represent an object, or so now let's assume we have a now. So a equal to b, a equal to 20, or a equal to 20. So now a is serving as the variable used to represent 20. So really we don't know what. So right now a is representing 20. Anywhere we see a, we know that a is, anywhere we see a, we know that a is 20. So a is representing 20. So in this context also we are going to be creating a variable that represents colors, or a specified color for the variable. So let's see what I'm talking about now. So I will create the variable using roots. So this is a selector. It's called roots. It's not really like a selector, but also this is what is used to. We use this as just like a selector to declare the variables that we want. Alright, so we need main color, variable main color, and also the second color. So for the main color we use, okay, so we need variable main color and also for second color. So now this is the color we want. So you can see ash there. So it's like a yellow, but not really yellow, but it's yellow. So and the second color is almost black or blue. So now this is the color we are needing. So you can see the way I specify the variable. So this is the variable name. There is hyphen main color, main hyphen color. Then the second one is second hyphen color. So this is second variable name. So this is how you specify a variable name. So it can be any name, it can be any given name, but it must have this hyphen. So this is what makes it a variable. It's what makes it a variable. So you can see what happens now when I remove the two hyphen, or I add one hyphen. See what happens. So the color has changed, which shows, and it's being underlined with color yellow, which means there's an error in my code, which means it is not correct. So you can see also define the standard property color for. Now it's not compatible, the name is not correct, so we need to put double hyphen. So I can name it any color, any name. So it can be color 2, or color 2, like this. But you must start with an hyphen, 2 double hyphen. So that is what makes it a variable. Alright, so right now if you check the code now in the website, nothing is really happening. So we just need to go and start creating some styling for the navbar. So let's go into this comment I've written here now. So navbar starts here and also ends here. So I will write the navbar selector. So this is for this navbar here. So this is for the navbar here. You can see the navbar from here to here. So now this, everything I write inside this now we apply it for here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to split my screen so that you can be seeing what I'm doing in the live server. Alright, so the first thing I need to declare now is the position. So now it will be the position for the position for the navbar. So where did I want it to stay? How did I want it to be? So for the positioning, so let's check. So right now I've come to this site, w3schools.com. So you can come to this site now. You can learn about HTML CSS, JavaScript, CS, SQL, Python. So you can learn about any other. So but here now what I want to show you. So I'm going to be using this site to do some practical aspects. So explain some things for us, the tests, and then we can practicalize our projects. So and also one of the benefits, one of the reasons why I want to use this site, because it allows us to run whatever we are doing, the CSS. So we are going to test run it and see the way it works. So now let's go back to the positioning now. So the position property specify the type of positioning method used for an element. So it specifies, so for example now, how you want an element to be on your positioned on your page. Now this is my page right now. So the way I want the elements, maybe like navbar, div elements, any element to be positioned. So let's see the way it works. So now we have we have 5 ways of specifying it. So we have static, relative, fixed, absolute, and sticky. So elements are then positioned using the top, bottom, left, and right properties. So after you have specified the kind of position you want, maybe static, relative, you need to specify how you want it to be positioned also. So if it is top, send it to the top, left, right, bottom. Okay, let's look at it from the beginning. So for the position static now. So the elements are positioned static by default. So that means the default positioning is static. So let's see. So static position elements are not affected by the top, bottom, left, and right properties. So that means if you do not add any positioning, so the one that is going to be there automatically is going to be static. So it's not positioned in any special way. It is always positioned according to the normal flow of the page. So now this is an example. So if I try it yourself, if I click on this, try it yourself, you can see the way it works now. You can see if I scroll up and down, it's still the same thing. It stays there just like the way I specify it here. So you can see now this is div here now, and then there's a class here. So now this div dot class, you can see static. You can see it here. So this is the styling that has been added to it. Now for this inline element is used there. Inline element. So let me come back here now. So let's see. So that is for the static. So let's see the relative. So an element with position relative is position relative to its normal position. So setting the top, right, bottom, and left property of a relative position element will cause it to be adjusted away from its normal position. So now that means in this, using the relative position, we need to set the left, right, bottom, and left properties, so that it can cause the position to be adjusted from the normal position. So other content will not be adjusted to fit into the any gap left by the element. So that means in case for example now, in case the element is occupying, it's not occupying the space or the width specified for it, other elements won't be occupying that space. Why? Because it is said to be relative. Alright, so coming to this, try it yourself again. Let's see the way it works. Alright, so while it is loading, I will go back, come down to fixed. Alright, so let's see the try it yourself. You can see the try it yourself. See the way it works now. So if I run it now, you can see the way the static is, just normal, starting from here, then end here. Position, while for the relative, it goes. So right now, you can see the left. So if I increase the left, now if I change it from, now you should know this is left, while this is right, this is top, and this is bottom. If I change the left to 20 now, you see what will happen. It will adjust it back here, somewhere here. So let me run it now. You can see what happens. So it sends it here. So if I adjust it again, so if I set the right also to like 20 pixels. So very important, I need to close. Alright, if I run now, alright, so let's see, it's on display now. Alright, so I also set the bottom and right. So if I set the right and the top and bottom, is going to adjust it down. And then so let's see the other properties so that we don't spend much time. So you can come back to this site, come and check the way it works. so that we won't spend much time in, we have many other things to do. So absolute, so here's an example of absolute position relative nearest position ancestor. So instead of position relative to the viewport like fixed. So however, if an absolute position element has no position ancestor, it uses the document's body moves along with page scrolling. That means this one blends with this scrolling of the page. So if I scroll up, down, now you can see it blends with it. So that is the way it is, just like what we have here now. This is absolute, this is relative here. And alright, so see, let's see sticky. You can see what happens to sticky. Sticky is, if I scroll up, so it's position based on this user scroll position. So sticky is always like this. But when I scroll up now, or I scroll down rather, then it stick to the top. So it stick just like fist. So but then it's move when I'm scrolling down, when I'm just on my normal, but when I scroll up and that element touches the top, it stick there. So why for the fist? So see the way the fist works. Alright, and one last thing I need us to know is the top left, centered, top right. So now this is top right, top left, bottom right, and then the center. So this we are going to be using in our projects. So I might not come back to explaining this again. So I wanted to also come back to this W3 schools to come and study this positioning very well in case you don't really understand. But then we are going to be applying it in this our projects. Alright, so let's go back to the project and let's see. Now I want to apply it now. Alright, so for the what we need for this project is fist. So we're going to be using fist. Then we need to set the top to 0, and also the right and left. Let's set the left to 0. So what it means is it's going to be here. So just okay, let's assume I set the top to 30 pixels. Now see what happens. Can see what happens to the tops. It sent it downward. So if I set the left to something like 30 also, see it sends it to the, it add like a margin to it. So you can see, let's see what happens. You can see what happens now. Send it to the side just like a margin. But that's not our target. So we want it to be like against the wall. Let's say it like that. Let's just put it like that. So try to understand what I'm explaining, because we are going to be using it many times in these projects. Alright, so I'll just set it to 0. So other things that we need, in this. Okay, let's continue now. So we need to specify the width of the nav bar. So it's going to be 100%. So that is, it must fills the whole page. So the whole page size. Then we set the padding. So for the padding, we are going to be using 15 pixels and also 10 pixels. So for the 15 pixels is going to be top, and 15 is going to be for the top and the bottom. So and then the 10 is going to be for the right and left. So I think I explained this in the previous video, how the padding works and also the margin. Alright, so we need to also set the background color. So let's set the background color to white. So let's set it to white. So let's use the hexagon color. So let's set the box shadow to. Let's add the box shadow to it. Shadow. So the box shadow we're going to use 0, then 1 pixels, then specify the RGB. Then for the RGB we are going to use let's, instead of using the normal, let's just use this code. So Alright, so the next thing we need to do, so this is just for the nav bar. Okay, mind you, we are not seeing much changes in it. Why? Because we have not really. So let's start writing some code also. So after you have specified, let's also use display. Yes, in the previous video I explained the display. Let's set the display settings. Let's set the display, how we want it to display. Alright, so for the display, just like, okay, let me come out to W3 school and let's see how. Let's quickly explain it for you here. So how the display works. Alright, so see the display here. So display is the most important CSS property for controlling layouts. Now this is talking about the layout, how you want it to be. So now let's see. The display property specify if how an element is displayed. If and how an element is displayed. So every HTML element has a default display value depending on what type of element it is. The default display value for most elements is block or inline. So let's see the way it works. So now, example of block level elements. So we have div, h1. Now these ones, now if you notice that anytime you write this one, you put an element in a div. What happens then is, and you want to write anything else, that whatever you have written goes to the next line. So that's what blocks is about. So a block level element always starts on a new line and takes up the full width available, that it stretches out to the left and right as far as it can. So it stretches to the whole width and then occupy the whole width. And then any text or any element you are using next go to the next line. So unlike the span, the A attributes or the image attributes that are like inline paragraph. So let's see. So and also you can also set your display no. So that when you set this to no, that means you don't want whatever content you have your element to be displayed on your page. So just the way. So now it's commonly used with JavaScript to hide and show elements without deleting and recreating them. So now, alright, so overriding default. Alright, so now let's use it in our project now. So for this project, we are going to be using. So you can see the way this one is. Alright, so let me scroll down. So for this now, I'm going to be using a display called. Alright, so we also have flex. So flex is give us access to flex display, which I'm going to be using here, unlike block and inline. What it does is to bring it side by side. So any of the content you are doing, it sets it side by side. So let's see how it works now. So for what we are going to do, we are going to be using, as I said earlier, we're using flex. So now let's see the way it works now. So if you notice here, we have these elements, these two elements. We have the A elements. If you remember last time I told you that A element is always an inline element. So we have the block elements, we have the inline elements. So now the A element is an inline element, div element is. So right now the div element does not have any content in it. So it's not going to be showing at all. But the UL, that's the another list as why the A. So now when we have set to block so when I come back here now, you can see after setting it to the display to flex, see what happens. The A element, which has the content of Ayomide, now goes to the right. It goes to the right, while the another list goes to the left. Sorry, goes to the right. Alright, so the next thing we need to set now is to add justified content. So we're going to set it to center. So it was in among the images I showed you in the earlier. So it's among this. So I explained this block. Alright, okay. So okay, where is it? So yes, this is for the justify. We have center. So when I come up here to, so let me go back here. Okay, now after setting the justify content now center, so it means every content inside this nav element should come to the center. So that's what you are seeing right now. So, but that's not what we want to use. So we have the center, but we want to use the space between, just like what we saw here. So there's space between, there's space around. So just like what we saw here. So we have the space. You can see the way it works now. The center brings to center, flex end brings to the center, the flex start to the start, then space between. You can see the way space between works. So it leaves a space between. So space around, leave a space around the elements inside that specified elements. So in our context we are using the nav. So now it puts, so other elements inside the nav is going to put space in between them. So space evenly, space is evenly. So for this now we are going to be using this. Alright, so next we need to let's add the align element. Let's align our elements to center, so that, so we have aligned the center. Then next thing, we need to add an index, which is going to be 1000, and then add a transition to it. So this transition is just like the animation we had to so I know most of you should be familiar with what transition is, but I'll just do a quick explanation to you. So if you see the way it was now, so if I reload the page now, see what happens. Okay, it's not really reflecting. Why? Because, so let me write it again. Let's see the way it works. So this transition determines how this element appears anytime it's being called or it's available. For example, now if I reload the page now, you see what happens. It's okay. We can specify how it enters too. So I've just come here, then specify how the transition is being put. So let me just come here, and then so it should ease in. So I've set it to ease in now. See what happens now. See that the way it came in. So if I set it to, so let's make it to be visible. If I set it to 1 now, let's see what happens. You can see what happens. It's coming down slowly. So it is transiting down. So I will return it to 0.5 so that it won't take time. So 1 or above will be so long. So we won't want that in our code. So other things so now next thing we need to add, now let's add the elements for the logo. So now let's add logo elements. So I'll come back here. So now we need to add logo. So remember here, for this home now we have a class that we called here. So we have this logo element, we have this A element, and then we specify a class here named logo. So I'll come back here. So let's see so we have A elements here, we have home, we have class elements which is logo, and also we also have the span IOMIDI. So I've just closed here so that I can make it bigger, and then come back to this. Where is it? Alright, so I'll come back here now, close this one now. So let's call the logo. So you can see the way I'm calling the logo now with this dot. So which is, can you see so now this dot is used to represent a class element. So the logo is going to be, so let's set the text transform, so to capitalize. So this happens, okay, now for example, if I change the name to A, small letter A now, let's see what happens. See, it's in capital letter, but when I comment, let me comment this now, it's returned to small letter A, but transforming it to capital letter now, see what happens, it changed back to, so it was in the previous slide I showed to you about the text properties. So where is the text property here now? Alright, so this is the text, okay, font family, okay, yes, this is the font property, yes, transform. So we have the no that is, there should not be text transform capitalize uppercase and lowercase. So when I set it to uppercase now, you know what will happen. all the text becomes uppercase. You can see everything becomes uppercase. So I'll just leave it as capitalized. So it can start with capital letter. The next thing I need to add there, I will add the font size there. So my font size is going to be, I will set it to 1.4 m. Or let's use rem instead of. Alright, so 1.4. Mind you, don't make mistake while typing your letters. The next thing, I will set the color. Set the color to secondary color. So see the way, very good now. So right now I'm calling this color. Can you see I'm calling the color right now, the variable color. You can see the way I'm calling it now. So instead of writing this color, so right now what I'm doing is to call this color now. To call it now, I added inside a variable name property. Can you see this variable here, which is var? So that var means variable. Then inside a bracket, I wrote the name of the color I want. So next thing I will add is the logo width, so that can be, I will add a logo width. So it's going to be font width. So font width. So I've set down to 700. So 700 is going to be bold. You can see what happens now. It's very bold. So next thing, so we have added this now. Let's also design, because we added a span there. So that we can have something like this, like Ayomide. So I want that thing, if you notice here now, mine is in capital letter throughout. So let's make this also capital letter. So what I just do, I'll come back to this text transform. So just change it to uppercase. So that I can have capital letter now. So let me come back here now. So we have this span, MIDI. So I've changed this MIDI to, so let's design the MIDI. So then for the MIDI, so that is for the span. So what do I'm going to call it now? I will use dot logo, then span. So I've come here now, then do it like this, dot logo, span, because it is inside here. Inside this logo, the span is inside this logo elements. So I'll just call it, then I'll add the color there. So for this, I'm going to be using the main color. So main color. So can see the way it is now. So I'm using the main color for this. So that's all for the span. The next thing, let's design the UL. That's on another list. So now the link here, let's design it. It's not looking nice at all here. So let's start designing it. So first thing we want display. Want it to display side by side, just like what we did here the other time. The nav bar, I made this one to split. So you can see it now. After setting the display to flex, see what happens. Next thing we need to do, we need to set the UL, then LI, and then the A. Now this is the element we are calling. So we have called, now this is the UL here. When I come here now, this is UL, then we are calling this L, and then this A. If you notice, this A is inside this LI, and then inside this UL. So right now, the main thing we are calling there is this A. So why we are specifying this, so that it can, because there might be times when we might be needed to use this UL or A, so that I can specify that this is directly talking about this element. So let me go back to this styling, then let's go there and then write the padding there. Let's add the padding. So the padding is going to be 10 pieces and then 20 pieces. So let's add 20 pieces. Alright, so you see what happens now. So each one of them, we have added a padding for the each A now, A attributes, you can see. So there's a space in between. So you can decrease it and increase it and see what happens next. Alright, so after adding the, so we need to change some things there. We need to set the color. So we set the color to second color. So second color, so it changed to second color now. So we need to set the border. So now there's one what we call border radius. So if you remember in the last video, I told you about all elements having a border. So all elements coming as a box. So they all have a border. So here now we set the border radius to P. So you might not really see the border radius, how it works. Now let me just show you the way it works now. So let's see. I'll just add the border there. So border, I'll add the border to 1. So then add the color to it. Then color you can add red. And then what kind of this thing we want? Alright. We should not use, let's not use shorthand here. Let's use the normal. So let's use border border color. Let's use just use here. So we're not seeing the color of the border. We need to add let's go down to red. Alright, so let's just use shorthand. So let's add a, so let me just show you what it looks like. So now for the border. Now so let's add okay, for the border side let's add 3 pixels, then the color let's use red. So right now it's not going to show, right? Because I've not specified the style. So let's use, if we use dash, let's say dash. So you can see the way dash works. Can you see? So don't let us use dash, let's use so let's use we have many. So let me check what okay. So we have dash, we have so let me to check what, okay, let me just come here so that I can see all the style that we have. So we have dotted, we have double, we have hidden, we have solid. So let's use solid for this. So solid. Alright, so can you see the way it is now? So when I increase the border radius now, let's see the way the border radius was now. For the border radius, so if I set it to 0, if I comment it now, see what happens. It goes straight. It's not curved in the way it was before. But when I undo it now, see what happens. Alright, it's not visible. So let me just make it like 50%. Then you can see what happens. You can see the way it is now. It's like a circle, like over. Alright, so that's just what we are planning to achieve with the border radius. It's not going to be visible now until we add a code to, okay, let's just continue. Then let's add the font weight for the styling. So it's going to be 600. Then we add a letter spacing. So let's space the letters and then add it, make it 1 pixels. So next thing, so let's go there. So next thing I want us to add, so that I want us to make the link to be visible now, so that we can have something like this now. If I go back to the site, so when I come back here, you can see when I hover it now, see what happens. The color appears, color yellow appears. So I want this same thing to appear too. So I will go back, I come back here, then use this UL, then LI, and then A. Then I put this column and then over. So just like what I have here now. That is when I hover it. Now this is like a child attribute. A child attribute for the selector. So now, so we call this one pseudo elements. So this is called a pseudo element. So I'm adding a pseudo element here. So if I go to CSS now, let's see what pseudo element is. So I want to come here now. So let's look for where pseudo. Okay, now this is pseudo element. So pseudo element is used to style specified parts of an element. For example, it can be used to, alright, so can you see it can be used to start the first letter or line or of an element. Insert content before or after the content of an element. So the syntax for a pseudo element is selector, then just like what you have here now. Then the properties. Then you can have now, we have first line, we have, so the first line property applied to the, so we have this, all this now. So we have first letter, we have so many, which you can come back here to come and check them one after the other and see the way they all works. The way they all works. So there are so many. So pseudo, we have pseudo classes too. So we have pseudo elements. These are the elements. First line. So we also have classes. Pseudo classes. We have active, checked, disabled, empty, enable. So we have this one. So among which we have. Alright. So that's for the pseudo elements. So now let's go and make use of it here. So let's add the color. So let's add the background color that make it. So let me go back to our site here. Then coming back here. So let's add the background color. So the background color we're going to use is going to be the second color. Okay, let's use the main color. The main color. So you can see what happens now. When I over it now, you can see what happens. The color changes to red. So let's make the color of the text to be white. So let's use color white. So you can see what happens now. It changes to white anytime I over it. Alright. So right now we've successfully built a nav bar now. The nav bar is now set up and running. So the next video we are going to start building the home page, start building the home page. So we have the nav bar ready now. So we start building this page that we have here. Then build these animations that are appearing here. Alright, thanks. Bye for now. See you in the next video.